There are many things that I would have done differently if I had written The Legend of Korra, and I actually do like The Legend of Korra, so not that I dislike it, but just saying what I might have preferred. So these are just opinions that I would have had. So we'll work backwards by book and then we'll do overall. So if working backwards by book, I will say that in book 4, one of the things I would have done differently is I would have returned the Avatar past lives. I would have had them return, meaning when Korra went to block the spirit light from destroying Kuvira, when Korra saved Kuvira's life, I would have made it so that Korra would somehow be able to regain connection to all of her past lives, from Aang all the way to Wan, and I would let her get that back, and then I would do something crazy and very convenient where I would make the spiritual blast open a new spirit portal and bring back all the air nomads who died because of Sozin, and all the dragons who died because of Sozin, and all the water tribe members, southern water tribe people who died because of Sozin and Azulan, and I would just bring back everyone who was victim to the 100-Year War or preceding events, anyone who was victim to Sozin, I would just bring them all back. And then they would have even more airbenders and more stuff. So bring back all the past lives and everything that was victimized by Sozin. So I know it sounds a little crazy, but maybe those are some things I would have done. I would have, at the very least, done the past lives thing. And something else I might have done differently in book 4 is I actually think Toph was used perfectly in book 4 because she wasn't around too much, because it's really a story about the people, the characters of the Legend of Korra, and not really about the old Team Avatar. It's about the new Team Avatar. But I loved how Toph was very powerful and just easily destroyed all of Kuvira's army in that one scene. So Toph was used pretty well. Perhaps I would have done at least one reunion or so. I would have had more of Fire Lord Azumi, definitely. I think her one scene where she spoke out against preemptively attacking Kuvira was excellent, but I would have had a little more of Fire Lord Azumi, maybe. And I would have done more of Zuko as well, because he was just seen for one shot during that coordination thing, and then he just, later he, didn't appear, so done that, and maybe given Fire Lord Azumi a dragon. So, though, I think obviously book 4 was excellent, or season 4, whatever you call it. I think it was excellent. I didn't love it, but it was fine. And so was book 3 and book 2 and book 1. But in book 3, what I might have done differently is I actually think I would have had a scene. I would have had more scenes with Zuko, definitely, him expressing more of his powers. And I would have also done slightly more backstory into Ai Wei and why Su Yin was so afraid to let him be on the loose. Like, what does he know about Su Yin in the city that Su Yin doesn't want out there? What does Ai Wei have in the Metal Clan in Zaofu? So I would have gone more into why maybe Su wanted Ai Wei to be captured and brought back. In terms of the final sequences, I loved how Tenzin was tearing it up and just destroying Zahir at first, and then the entire Red Lotus had to step in to sort of help out, and even then they could barely subdue Tenzin, even if they ultimately succeeded. Yes, and in terms of the whole airbending thing, I'm not a fan of how the harmonic convergence and everything just magically made airbenders appear. So I would have found a different way to go about that. Maybe Korra got powers from the spirit world. Or actually, we'll get back to that idea in a moment. But I would have had a scene where the Red Lotus actually goes and attacks Fire Lord Azumi, and then she and Zuko and General Iroh, the second, Zuko's grandson, they just destroy the Red Lotus or something. Like maybe Azumi shoots lightning and then hits Mingwa and she dies, and then she shoots lightning at Pulley and she dies, and then and this goes on lava vents, but Zuko uses the thing that Sozin did and just redirects all the smoke out and makes the lava freeze, and then they have to fight, and Red Lotus gets taken down in that way. Because Korra didn't really do anything in book three. She was in book three in the battle. She was mainly weakened, and it was everyone else who was fighting and winning. So if they had Zuko just take them all down, then that would have been awesome and a great nod, and the fans would have really appreciated it. But going back to the idea of Korra giving these new airbenders airbending powers, obviously she has the spirit bending ability because Aang gave it to her. Maybe she lost it because she doesn't have connection to Aang anymore, but the point is, or maybe after defeating Unavatu, Korra gains the power to give bending out to people. That would be a nice thing. Or maybe Aang had the power to energy bend, airbending into people, whatever the case is. Before that happens, book two, many things could have gone better, many things could have gone worse. I think it was boring, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't poorly written. I think it was actually well written and covered a lot of things. I would have had a lot more intimacy and those kinds of moments with Korra and Mako. I would never have destroyed the connections to the previous avatars, and if they were destroyed, I would have just brought them back. I think the Vatu thing and the whole Avatar 1 backstory, I think it's very cliche and not well done at all, and does take away a lot from the mystery, because even if there was that story, like, revealing the story just takes away from the mystery and how special it was, so that was not a great thing. So, oh, and another thing, as I added, is I would make sure that Unalaq and Tonraq actually have a connection to someone. So, their father was a chief of the Northern Water Tribe, so I would have explicitly said Unalaq and Tonraq's father, the Northern Water Tribe chief, I would have made him a character that we know. So maybe Han, who was Princess Yue's fiance, remember Princess Yue, Sokka's ex-girlfriend or something like that, she became the moon, spirit in book 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was engaged to be married to this guy named Han, and he ended up getting thrown off a ship by Admiral Zhao, who we also saw in the spirit world. I thought that was a nice touch when we saw Admiral Zhao in the Fog of Lost Souls. That was pretty awesome. But the point is, I would have had the guy Han, Princess Yue's fiance, I would have had him survive getting thrown in the ocean by Zhao, and I would have had Han just become the chief of the Northern Water Tribe, because Yue doesn't have any Yue doesn't have any brothers, so and Han was engaged to be married to Yue anyway, so I would just have Han be engaged. I would have just had Han, that guy, Princess Yue's fiance Han, be the Northern Water Tribe chief, and he would be the father of Tonraq and Unalaq. So that's what I would have done. I would have found a much more creative origin story for the Avatar. In book 1, there were many things I liked about book 1, but mainly it was just the intimacy between Korra and Mako, and the scene with all the avatars later and giving back the bending, and I probably would have maybe had this story take place further down the line. So I understand Korra was supposed to be 17 or 18 or something, and Aang was 12 or 13. So there was a slight difference, but I would have had an even bigger difference, like maybe have Korra be 32 or 25, be even more advanced, and I would have Korra just be a fully realized avatar, and not be still learning the elements or air or whatever. I like the Republic of City idea, the United Republic. That's neat. And it's possible I probably wouldn't have done The Legend of Korra at all, and instead I would have gone and explored an avatar way before Korra, and so maybe book 1 would have been something about, I would have had maybe 4 or 5 or maybe 3 seasons, and so the first book 1, would have been focused on the Earthbender avatar, the guy with the white beard, And the second book would have been focused on Avatar Aceto, the firebending avatar with who made volcanoes explode, if in Aang's vision, and also was wearing that red hat and looks like Jafar, and he's been called Avatar Jafar, but his name is Avatar Sito. And then book 3 would have been about Avatar Yang Chen. Book 4 would have been about Avatar Kuruk. Maybe book 5 more about Avatar Kyoshi, but then Kyoshi's life was revealed in the book, so maybe not her. Maybe I would just choose 4 random avatars, not even necessarily in order, but from way back when, and maybe focus on avatars back then. So instead of just doing maybe I would have just one episode where I do the avatar after Aang, the waterbending avatar. And I love the decision to have Korra be a female from the Southern Water Tribe, because obviously Avatar Kuruk was from the Northern Water Tribe, and Aang and Roku were men, so just have Korra be a female is good. And in terms of Korra and Zuko, I like the scenes and the few conversations they had. What I wish Zuko had added was just how Zuko's great-grandfather is Avatar Roku. Just a mention of that, and if Korra knew that or not, I mean, I'm sure it's written in the history books, so maybe she already knew that, but whatever. Oh, and I also would have loved a interaction between Zuko and Roku. Maybe Avatar Roku talks to an old Zuko and tells him how proud of him he is, or something like that. And some mention that Ozai died alone and lonely in jail or something, or maybe he's still alive, I don't know. And instead of Iroh being in the spirit world, I know we all love Iroh, but we all love Sokka too. So I would have changed the story to where Sokka went to the spirit world after he died, or not after he died, because you don't really go to the spirit world after you die. It's not, spirit world is not an afterlife. It's a world where spirits are, and the only reason Iroh was there because he went to the spirit world and just left his body behind forever. So that's why he died, like because his spirit left the body and just didn't return to the body. Just had to stay in the spirit world. That's why the body was left behind to die, essentially. So spirit world is not an afterlife, and as far as I'm aware, there is no afterlife in the Avatar universe, so there's that. Yes, so the point is, I would have had Sokka go to the spirit world before his last days. I would have had Sokka go into the spirit world so he could be with Yue, Princess Yue, forever, and have him be the one to meet up with Korra in book 2 and book 3. I would have Sokka, instead of Iroh, be the one in the spirit world to greet Korra. And I would have given Sokka like at least one kid, like a daughter or something, and just had her appear or even be mentioned at some point.